Acting Human Settlements MEC Lebogang Maile says the majority of the affected wards at Tambo Memorial Hospital are now operational. Parts of the hospital's casualty and emergency wards were damaged during a gas tanker explosion on Christmas Eve. 18 people sadly have died in that blast. Our reporter Manqoba Mkhunu joins us now for more on this story. A very good afternoon to you, Manqoba. A very sad story indeed, one can imagine. And you spoke to eyewitnesses earlier, and what do they say is the feeling that they got from that particular explosion that happened on Christmas Eve?
Well, Rupo, I can tell you that many of those that were there are still in shock. Now, they're still trying to piece together what really happened there, and many of them saying that, it has been 2 days already that this incident occurred, but still they feel as if, it's just happened. It still feels surreal. It's unbelievable what they saw on that day. These were people who rushed to the scene just a few moments after that blast had happened, and the lady I spoke to saying that, when she got there, she couldn't believe what she saw. It was like she was in a movie. These are things that she'd seen on movies only, because there were just bodies lying everywhere, young and old, small children that were there, some of them decapitated. There were body parts that were everywhere on that particular scene, and the stench of burning flesh is what she remembers the most. She says she cannot forget that. Even when she goes to sleep, she still, smells the flesh, the burning flesh of people that were there. She did her best to try and assist those that were there, but at the time she could see that some of them were already gone, they're demised at the time. And so it's really been tragic, Ropua. I asked her, why have you returned here? She says, in fact, she's returning here for the 3rd time. And this is because she still doesn't believe what happened. Every time she comes here, for her, it's a sort of healing coming to the scene, because she can get to see the families, she can get to console the families, because she says even up until now, Ropua, she still sees the bodies where they were and, where they were laying. So you can just picture the devastation that took place there. People that were there are still traumatized. The staff at the hospital are also still traumatized, and everybody's still looking for answers as to really why and how did this end up happening in their community. The whole community still reeling, Ropua, and looking for answers. But take a listen to what this lady had to say, the one that I spoke to, who said she still sees what happened there.
It's hard, so it's difficult to explain. We were here moments after it happened. The amount of people lying around, the amount of people running around. What you see here is just a small part of this whole tragedy. People lying, communities running around, assisting with water, family members looking for their people, medics running around, fire brigades. It's unbelievable to think that this can cause so much heartache, so much sore. Small children, I've got a 3-year-old myself, and the damage, the sore that those kids have, the lifeless bodies lying around. It's something like this happens overseas. You see this in movies. For us that was here moments later, it felt like a movie, because my brain is still too small to understand that something so neglect can cause so much damage and so much heartache to so many people.
Those are the devastating insights from an eyewitness who was there at the time of the explosion. But you also got to speak to a family member who actually lost loved ones in this explosion. What was their account, and really just how are they feeling after such an incident?
They're quite devastated, Ropo. I can tell you that most of the families are still in shock. They are unable to process what happened on that day, and they're battling to come to terms with it. We spoke to this family, the Earls family, that lost 5 of their family members. So they lost 4 of their children, as well as their brother-in-law, who was also killed in that incident. And they showed me, Ropua, on the scene where these bodies were lying, just taking me through, the picture of just how these family members were killed, lying next to each other on that scene, the others just a few meters away. But all of them, the injuries that they'd suffered were just too much to take for them. Some of them were decapitated. Some of them, had severe burn wounds to an extent that even though they were transported to hospitals, there was no chance that they were going to make it. And the families could see it on the scene that there was no chance that they would make it. So they're quite devastated. Of course, they're looking for answers, and they're saying that they want to see justice being served, because the question is, how did this end up happening in their community? When you look at the road that, the truck accident, that explosion occurred, one would wonder, why was this truck driver, going into that direction? Because it's not a huge road, it's a suburban area. And so they have many questions, Ropo. In fact, I remember just standing, there at the scene. I was told by people that, where you're standing now is where so-and-so was lying. You'd move to another spot, they'll tell you this is where somebody else was lying. So that just gives you a sense of, the devastation that happened there in that community. But take a listen to this family member just explaining their grief and their loss and, what they're going through from this tragedy.
The one girl that was lying here, she was my own. She was like my own daughter. Yeah, she was like my own daughter. I was the auntie, but you could have said we were mom and daughter. And the fiance, the girl that was lying here, the fiance also died.
But how are you holding up as a family?
It's very difficult. I can't explain the pain. It's very difficult. We try our best, but it's very difficult. It's very, very, very difficult. The pain is very difficult. There's no words to explain how we feel.
So Matilda, you were telling me just now that your girl was lying here and somebody else.
Yeah, the girl with the purple hair was lying here. The little brother was lying next door to her. The two eldest boys was lying there, and the fiance was lying there. And it also, like I said, the three died in the explosion. The other two, they died in hospital, but they wouldn't make it because they were injured very badly.
Her recollection of those dead bodies laying there is absolutely terrifying, Manqoba, very sad. But we've got authorities on board here, MEC Lebogang Maile, being privy to a report into the damage that was caused to the Tambo Memorial Hospital. What are the details of that report?
Indeed, Ropoa, in fact, there were many officials on the ground today just assessing the infrastructure damage that has been caused. We know, of course, that the bridge where this incident occurred has also been damaged. There are houses that have also been damaged, but also critically, a hospital, which is just meters away from the blast site, that was also affected, Ropoa, with some of the wards haven't been affected. The MEC confirming that, in fact, it was the emergency ward that was affected. There was also a roof collapse at one of the wards, an X-ray room, where they also saw the impact of this particular blast, but also saying that as provincial government, they will be stepping in to try and ensure that they rebuild the hospitals, those parts that have been destroyed. But the damage, Ropoa, the total damage that was caused is estimated at over 18 million rand. So it's 18 million rand for the electrical, damage that was done, but also an additional 250,000 for the collapse and the fixes that they have to do to some of the infrastructure. But the MEC is saying that in terms of the structural integrity of the hospital, they've done the checks, the engineers have been there, they've checked the building, and so far there's good news in as far as that the structural integrity of the building has not been compromised. So they will be able to fix these issues that have been caused by this. But of course, the timeline for that he was not able to give. He says that it's work in progress. What is making it difficult, of course, is that most of those, skilled, people that will be working there are still on holiday. So they're trying to get them back as fast as they can. But we know that there's still patients at the hospital. 24 of them, of course, at the time were affected. They got burnt, severely burnt. 13 staff members were also severely burnt. 9 of them have since died. So the tragedy also inside that hospital. As you walk in there, you can see the nurses. They're still quite shocked. They're sad about losing their colleagues. But I want you to take a listen to what the MEC had to say with regards to the repair work and some of their assessments.
Because of the structural damages that were created by this explosion, the Department of Infrastructure had to do some work. We had our engineer coming in to do a structural assessment. The good news is that there has not been any fundamental impact on the structure, meaning that the structure is still sound. However, there were several damages and these damages happened in the casualty and emergency unit. They happened in the theater ward, the X-ray ward, and the antenatal ward. And the damage to the infrastructure was limited to roof, ceilings, windows, and doors. So I'm happy to announce that as we speak, there's a contractor on site that is fixing that, meaning that the patients will be comfortable and their well-being is looked after. And in terms of the mechanical areas, we need something like 250,000 to fix that. It's now sorted. And these areas are in the areas that I have pointed to. But the most important thing is that the HVAC system, which is the air conditioning system, is affected and damaged, and it has to be fixed. For the electricals, we need about 18 million to fix. We've done the bills of quantities, and that was done by internal government quantity surveyor.